Yes, so welcome to Dragonheart. It's me, Mark Griffiths, and I'm delighted to say I'm joined by James Harrison. Hi, James. Good to see you.
Hi, how's it going?
Oh,
nice
yeah, great. Well, last week Saturday evening. Maybe that's the best thing to say, isn't it, really? Che is not with us because, congratulations to him, he's had a fine young baby. That's a bizarre way to put it. And to be fair, being a new father is kind of important, and so he's got his hands full at the moment. But absolutely massive congratulations from all of us to Che, and also, of course, to Mrs. Che and to Wesley. Not sure if he's named after Wes York or Wes Baines. We might debate this afterwards, James. I don't know. But
either way, what an exciting time for a newborn Wrexham fan to come into the club with the way forward.
Absolutely, and believe me, I know Che. Wesley will be a Wrexham fan. There's no two ways about it. So fantastic. Well, we'll better fill Wesley in on what happened just before he was born. Wrexham beating Kings Lynn. I felt happier about it afterwards. I think, James, at the time, I felt edgy.
I think everyone did. It's that you look at your fixtures, you think that's got to be a win, particularly in the position we are, particularly in the way you want to challenge, and obviously the Steve Cleeve bit as well. And it's just all leads into it. But you're looking, and no disrespect to Kings Lynn, those are games that you're looking at and say that's 3 points, and it becomes nervy when there's a goal and they keep scoring.
Yeah, exactly. It just wouldn't stop. It was like, for some reason, I'm thinking of that. What was that film with Julia Roberts where she had this awful boyfriend? It was one of the earlier Julia Roberts ones, and
it's not Pretty Woman.
Not Pretty Woman. That was that. Well, when you hear what I say next, you'll realise, wow, it would be a very different film. In the end, he's so horrific, and she kills him, which I don't remember happening to Richard Gere. Although, it is a sanitised version of this tale about prostitution, isn't it? Maybe the real version that happens. But in this film, she kills him, and she's relieved, and then he comes back again. So she has to kill him again, like Rasputin. He comes back again, and Kings Lynn were like that. They just wouldn't die, and they hit an equaliser. Or fair play, that's a brilliant goal. But when we do him again, it goes to 3-1. That's over, and fair play to them. They just would not give up.
That sounds more like Her Brothers type of film, and Eric Roberts' 80s sort of action film that keeps coming back to life.
They were dreadful defensively, really awful defensively, and we could easily have scored a silly number of goals, really. I mean, we had the goal disallowed, which I think we should get to in a moment, because if you've got any theory as to why that was disallowed, I'd be fascinated. It's bizarre.
I have got a theory on that, actually, yeah. I've watched, probably a lot of fans watched the replay several times, and I think I've got it, but yeah. Well, but yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, you can score a hatful. I mean, five. Let's not be greedy. 5 is a great thing to do. I mean, and a couple of their goals really. The free kick, Carey's a decent player, to be honest. He stands out for them a couple of times I've seen him play. But yeah, the other two are sort of mistakes, really, and our defence, particularly in the 18-yard box, has been quite solid and robust. So you can put that down to hopefully an off day at the office and close back up the next game, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully, because we haven't been like that all season. So hopefully, it's just a weird thing that happened. It was poor, wasn't it? We had such a soft underbelly, just go on you, just running straight through the middle of us. That wasn't pretty, was it? But yeah, like you say, we did batter them at the other end. Caper made 3 unbelievable saves as well. So, we've got to be happy, really, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, and fair play to Jackson. He was there at the right place, right time to knock in. Make the most to capitalise on the errors, and that's what you pay your money for strikers to do, I suppose, isn't it? So, and Wrexham normally we come against a keeper and using that type of form, and we don't score. So to get 5 past him, because how frustrated have we been when a keeper's looked dodgy and pulled off all these saves, and we've not scored anything and gone away from a game where we thought we should have had points and got nothing from it. So
yeah, that's Neil Richardson. I mean, he was absolutely magnificent, and yet still let in 5 goals. Something which I often try to argue in my goalkeeping career. Didn't manage to be as convincing as he was. But that just come on, we got to do it. The disallowed goal. What?
So I think everyone's concentrating a little too much on the sort of last 4 or 5 seconds of the ball going to the net. If you take it back 10 seconds, Pearson is actually holding back the defender, and quite badly so. He's put his arms all around him. He pulls the defender away. It's only when the ball ricochets back that Pearson tries to rush forward, and that's when it looks like he's rugby tackled. But if you look on the build-up, it's actually Pearson holding the defender back, which allows the initial shot on goal, or the space that the assistant gives. That's the only thing I can see in it.
How dare you, James Harrison? How dare you say Sean Pearson would commit a foul at a set piece? That's unbelievable.
It's the only thing I can see in it. The only thing I can see really that I think it's Pearson's given for the initial foul. Everything after that, yeah, I can't see anything wrong with it.
I have an alternative theory.
Okay.
I think before I explain it, I think it just illustrates that it was a controversial call, because we can't agree, and as you say, we have both looked at it over and over again. I'm just curious about the way that the moment Ponticelli scored and then turned and saw that the referee was not going to allow it, he tapped his head, which usually, of course, is a symbol for I didn't score with my hand, I headed it. But that's definitely not what he was doing, because I mean, at no point was the ball anywhere near anyone's hand, except with the initial one where the defender blocks it and maybe with an arm on the line. But anyway, I'll leave that. It's complicated enough. So it's definitely not a Wrexham handball. But the other reason he may argue is are you giving high kicking and their players ducking in? And when I've looked at the replay, I mean, the ball's not on the floor when he volleys it. I would argue, and his foot is quite close to the defender's head on the line. It's not high kicking though. I mean, his foot is lower than his hip, and he's leaning, so his hip's low. And frankly, the defender is almost doubled over trying to head it. Now, the way that afterwards, Michael Gash was like their main cheerleader, and he kept going to the referee like that as well. And so I wondered if it was that. But if it was that, then it was absolutely nonsensical, because there's no way it was high kicking. And as well, if it is that, what is it with referees and us with high kicking on the goal line? I mean, we've had a penalty given at Eastleigh because James Horsfield cleared the ball off the line onto somebody's head, and then we get a goal disallowed if that's what it was for high kicking when you're volleying the ball into the net. Could the bloke stoop down in front of you? I'm not convinced. I don't know. Jay Harris played very well, coming back from injury. Only managed 70 minutes. Let's hope he's got the 90 minutes in him for Saturday.
Yeah, obviously he's a key player, and he's at the end of at the stage in his career where he needs to be managed through games and game times, and obviously he likes to collect a few cards to give himself a rest now and again. He's always done that throughout his career, but I think he's just managing. It needs to be managed by Dean and the team and the physio, and advised on. Had a little bit of injury, rested for the previous game, Notts County, where we really needed that type of player at times in that game, particularly in that early sort of 20-25 minutes when they were dominant in midfield. And then Kane's back in and goes off again with an injury. So hopefully he's the type of player that you need available in the squad. Whether we'll get the full 90 minutes out of him on Saturday, but hopefully if we can get whatever we can get, I think we get the best Jay Harris we can get for as long as we can get him on the pitch. And
another player coming back from injury is Jordan Ponticelli, and I was really impressed with him on Saturday. I mean, I've said it so many times, so I apologise for repeating myself, but I felt that he was the player brought in last summer to score the goals. The injuries he got in pre-season, and then throughout the season, he never really got going. But he looked very sharp on Saturday. His movement was good as well. And he scored 2 in the last 3 games and had that controversial goal disallowed, which he did his part of the bargain. I'd love to think that he's got 90 minutes in him now as well, because it gives us a few options up front.
Yeah, he's a player that I think both me and you in pre-season were very, very happy that we signed him, and sort of a bit surprised that we managed to. I think with COVID and teams cutting down their youth setups and reserve squads, probably freed him up, because he was rated at Coventry when we had him, and I thought he looked decent last year. Although raw and learning, senior football in a difficult physical league. So I was expecting, or hoping for a good season for him. And like I said, he's just been blighted with injuries through pre-season. Stop, start. then he's hit. He's come back with and been fit. He's hit an informed Kwame Thomas, or and there's been obstacles, and then he's managed to get a run in the side again. Got injured, and just hope that he's got those couple of goals now. I think you can't question he's keen and motivated. He has been all the way through, and you just hope that he's just got that bit of match fitness and sharpness just right at the right time or peak time for us to benefit from it.
Yeah, I'd hope so. I think he's a good player. He's still under contract for next season as well. I'm very pleased about that too. And then there's competition, like I said, up front. Goldo Matayo, oh, fair play. I mean, he really bullied the Kings Lynn centre backs on Saturday. Took his goal well. And Dior Angus, I think he's needed a rest for a while, and I think Keats would be happy to see Ponticelli able to start the game. But there's 3 good options right there for Keats to conjure with when it comes to Saturday.
Yeah, 3 options, and 3 options that keep defenders busy. I think Goldo Mateo is obviously, he's got his limitations, but if you play to his strengths, and the last couple of games we have done that, and he's looked quite decent with knockdowns and doing that, that sort of stuff. Obviously, a couple of goals and bullied defenders on Tuesday. But yeah, I mean, Dior Angus and Ponticelli probably do they work as a partnership up front? I'm not sure. I think they're clever enough players too. But you lose that option of that ball, that long ball, and that target man that has seemed to play dividends when we've had obviously Kwame earlier and now Gold. But yeah, be interested. Marsh Brown is obviously another option, and an experienced player to come into that sort of. We've got a mix, and all we can say is that strikers scoring goals and being on form, that side is good. Just need Dior Angus to have his rest and come back firing as well.
Absolutely. I mean, Chris Sang as well is an option.
Yeah.
He started 1 game this season, and I don't think it starts with him or Marsh Brown, I suppose, really. But it's good to have those options. And Sang is a different type of player again, and that Sang is a bit of an Andy Morel. I think really he works defenders extremely hard. He chases down everything. It's good to have that sort of variety, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you look what Stuart Bevan did. He was that type of player that worked harder for us, and I think with the right striker alongside him, they would have cashed in on his work rate. But the time we were playing with him up front as a target man, and for someone at almost just over 5 foot, what a lot of balls.
Yeah. To be fair to him, absolutely. We've seen Angus and Ponticelli play together for about 20 minutes, and I think you're right. I think you'd have to get the right sort of service to them to make them effective. But if you recall, it was a very exciting 20 minutes because it was the start of that Notts County game away from home when we really tore at them, and the 2 of them were causing all sorts of problems, but sadly didn't score, and then Ponticelli broke down. So possibly, like you said, they've both got clever movement. They'll both want to run in behind, stretch the defence, give space for Jordan Davis to come into. There's something to think about there. But I suspect, as you say, Amatayo is going to be the common factor in any.
I think that's key. Both strikers, like you said, they don't mind running. They don't mind working the channels. They don't mind, making those runs out wide to make space for midfielders. So the key there, if you're going to play those 2, is like you just said, making sure Jordan Davis can get on the board, or one of the other flair players, and just sort of pick the passes. Whether that be Jarvis, etc. But then you need Jay Harris and Young to give you that pivot and shore up that midfield to allow that space. And I suppose it depends how Dagenham and Redbridge will set up against us, and what determines what space we get.
I mean, looking back again at Kings Lynn as well, the goals we mentioned Jordan Davis and Young. The strike from the free kick by Davis. Have 2 players like that who are able to hit it from the edge of the area, from set pieces or open play. It's a fantastic weapon for us, isn't it?
Absolutely. And Jordan Davis, obviously, we've talked before about he needed the games, he needed the run to develop into a player, and that's what you've got to do with young players. You can't just expect them to throw them in and then be. It's a bonus if it does come off straight away. But Jordan's had to sort of fight for his place in the side, fight for what position he's playing, and he was a little bit hesitant, I think, early in the season to take the shots on. Sometimes, you think you were expecting that sort of lash of the left foot and have a shot, but he's grown in confidence. He started hitting it, and his set pieces now are to have that in your arsenal and on top of, you know, Luke Young as well doing the same thing. You know, that's why that free kick worked on Saturday, because the keeper doesn't know he's coming from the left foot or the right foot.
Yeah, exactly. Here's a fab fact. You know how we're supposed to be a negative team who struggle to score goals. Well, I mean, obviously that's not the case at the moment, especially as we're the fourth top scorers after the top three in the league. But if you look at the amount of games when we scored 3 or more goals in a season, this is our best season. Well, no, it's our best season since that 90-odd point season in 2011-12. That and this are our best seasons in the conference in that respect. And to find a season when we scored more, when more often we scored 3 or more goals in a game, you've got to go back to the 2002-2003 promotion season, which shows we certainly, when we had catch fire, we can spank teams. Although there have been quite a lot of games we failed to score in. Just to put it in context, I'm talking about league games, though. I should emphasise that. We've actually scored 3 or more goals in a match more often this year than in the legendary 1977-78 season when we won the 3rd division, which is remarkable, really. I mean, we had 3 players there scoring around 20 goals each a season, and yet this has been the year when we've actually battered teams. It's a shock, but it's a nice shock, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, one of those teams obviously is the champion Sutton when we 4-0 at home and sort of stuff. But yeah, I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? If we struggle to score, if Wrexham get the first goal, then we're always capable of adding to that, I think, because that's the style of football we play. We invite teams then to come and get that goal back, and hopefully we can catch them with the pace and the counter, or making them force the errors. But it's ones when we struggle to score, if teams come to defend and we can't always break teams down, and then we sometimes rely on that wonder shot from a midfielder or the free kick to break the deadlock. And that's where we struggle. But yeah, in terms of goals and games and some exciting football, yeah, then there's been a pity that people can't see them live, really. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of what we can expect and what teams are going to do against us, surely Dagenham are going to come at us, and so after this, we'll have a chat about what's in store for that massive game on Saturday.
I'm Jordan Ponticelli, and you're listening to the Dragonheart radio show.
Yeah, huge game on Saturday, James. We just can't emphasise that enough. It's do or die. Either we get in the playoffs or our season ends right there.
Well, yeah, it's as simple as that. It's in our hands, which is the best possible outcome for us. It gives you, it doesn't matter as long as you get those 3 points. You are in the playoffs, whether that's home or away. But I remember a few seasons ago where I think we came to the last game of the season and we were playing Filed already had a better goal difference than us. If we beat them, we could only finish level points, and they were in 7th place. So that was it. It was like there was nothing to play for, and it ended up a 0-0 draw. So at least it's exciting as a Wrexham fan going into the last game of the season, having something to riding on it, and then potentially that run of the playoffs. The last time we tasted it was the Eastleigh game, obviously at home. In the Ricketts season, was it Ricketts and Barrow potentially? Yeah. So yeah, it'd be fantastic for the fairy tale of everything that's gone on in 2021, and it's a nice ending for the documentary, but also if it isn't this season, it's going to be a fabulous journey next year anyway. And let's face it, it'd be great to go up. Although I look at that, some of those teams in there, and there's some teams that, Stockport, for instance, we haven't looked great against, and you think you're going to come up against them. But otherwise, there's teams in there that you think. I mean, I'd have actually fancied playing Sutton as one of the teams. Yeah. And obviously they went up as champions, and congratulations to them. But they would have been one of the ones I would have wanted in the playoffs rather than some of the others. So there's some big teams in there in terms of ex-league and stature. So everyone's going to want it, and all we can do is hopefully go out there, put our best performance, hopefully get 3 points, and then the journey continues, and we go as far as we can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Chances are it'll be an away game if we get through, but I shouldn't get ahead of myself. First, I should say I really hope they make it, not just as a Wrexham fan. I feel this team deserve to make it. I feel that since the turn of the year, the standards stepped up quite a lot. And, you know, although we've had some erratic moments, that Stockport game, for example, I'd say that generally we deserve to be top 5 or 6 from the way we played since the year's turned. And also, I'd really like this set of players to make it, because they deserve some reward for the way they keep fighting, the way they come back from behind, the way they've bounced back from bad results, the way we've coped with injuries. There seems to be a proper spirit amongst them. I know I can always say, you know, Dean Keats recruits on character as well as quality, but you can see that, I think, very clearly in this side. They're a gutsy bunch, and I'd love to see them get their shot of getting promoted, because let's be honest, some of them probably won't be with us next season if we're going to spend big. So it'd be nice to see them get their shot at showing what they can do. Yeah,
I think you've got to hand it to this group of players. I think with the odd exception, and it's been dealt with quickly, Keats has galvanised a team there that play for him, regardless of, you know, your opinion on Dean as a fan. And, you know, some are negative, some are positive. He has galvanised the squad, and he's got that squad playing for him. You cannot doubt that, because some of the comeback wins we've had, when we have had a bad result, we've come back and bounced back most of the time. We've gone on good run, you know, good winning streaks, or not, you know, not losing, at least, whether it's wins and draws. And I think, you know, like you said, the camaraderie amongst the players, they're in it together in a unit, and they've had to be, because of the bubbles and everything that's in there. I think you could easily fall out if you had the wrong type of characters in the dressing room in this situation, because you're spending probably more time than you would normally in a squad. So you can get away with you can't get away with some of the stuff that maybe, you know, just turn up to training and then different groups with their separate ways and things like that, you know, it could happen, permutations in football clubs. So I think they deserve it, yeah. And I think what I'd love more than anything is I'd love that home tie or the final appearance where Wrexham fans can actually get to see their team this season, and that would be fantastic. There's always a team that comes in with a bit of form in the playoffs and does well. Why can't it be Wrexham? You know, we're not in bad form. Ponticelli's just started to score a couple of goals. Can we? You know, Jordan Davies has hit form. Luke Young's been playing well all season. The defence obviously had a little bit of a whoopsie at the weekend, but generally has been solid. And, you know, since Pearson's come back in, that defence has picked itself. Scott Green's come in. Hall Johnson's continued doing what he's doing. And, you know, there's other players I haven't mentioned that are critical to the way they perform, not only just in the starting 11, but, you know, in that squad. And I think it would be fantastic for Wrexham fans to either get into the racecourse under the new ownership, see a bit of that, and have an atmosphere in there. You know, let the new owners see a little taste of what's to come when there's a full rocking racecourse, or get to the final and then, you know, have that day out and, you know, maybe do their 14-day quarantine and fly over from America.
They'd have to do that now, wouldn't they, really? Well, no, next Saturday. So they'd have to have great faith in the team that we're going to get through those playoffs if they're going to make it to the final. But I've unleashed an inner nerd in me this week, and I spent ages working out all the permutations, only to then, about half an hour later, see that one of our two superb photographers, Gemma Thomas, hi Gemma, hi Declan, had actually already done it and had posted it on the media team's chat group. So I thought, oh great, I spent ages, but I'm still gonna use it anyway, even though I'm not the first to jump on with it. Essentially, well, I mean, okay, looking at probability, this is probability without considering quality of teams, obviously. You know, looking at it from a bold statistical point of view. I did A-level stats, everyone. It was easier back then. There were fewer numbers, and you know, there's only 3 outcomes to a football match. So if you don't take into account the quality of the sides, you got 33.33 recurring chance of each result happening. Obviously, that's not true, is it? You know, if Man City are at home to Grays Athletic, there's more than a 33.33 chance of City winning. But if we just take the possibilities in terms of results, there's 81 permutations in the games that affect us. The simple thing is, if we win, we're in the playoffs against Notts County. Whether it's home or away depends on what Notts County do. If Notts County lose and we win, then we are at home. But that's the only way that can happen. So in terms of chances, if you're a gambling person, that's an 11% chance that we'll get a home match. Once you get into other results, it gets complex, obviously. The pleasing thing is that when you look at it as a whole, like I say, only the permutations, there's a 78% chance that we go through to the playoffs. Most likely a draw will get us through, unless Eastleigh beats Solihull. And the other game matters, the Halifax-Chesterfield match. If there's a positive result in that, it can go against us. Not necessarily. If we lose, even then, there's, according to the results, a better than 50-50 chance of qualifying. 59% chance that we could lose and go through. Now, obviously, that certain results are an absolute no-no in that scenario. But yeah, I guess the numbers are promising. 74% chance of qualifying if we draw, 59% chance if we lose. We may be in a slightly more positive position than I felt before I did that. I think it soothed me. Those statistics made me feel a little more relaxed. But the chances of a home game are, well, fairly slim.
Yeah, I mean, the home game would be fantastic for the fans, but obviously, let's go to the big one and get the fans in that. But it's one step at a time. Let's see if we can get those 3 points. I think, Dagenham, yes, they don't have anything to play for in terms of playoffs, but I don't think you can ever write a team off like that. Dagenham aren't going to want to lose in front of the first time they've got fans into the ground. They're going to want to put a performance on. There's also sort of the added permutation that Dagenham obviously got taken over by Americans a few years back by the same broker that also helped broker the deal with ours. So there might be even some competition going over the stateside with some bets and stuff. You never know. But it's no game's easy. No game's a given. And when teams don't have anything to play for, sometimes they're the hardest to predict. Yes, they may have already gone off for their summer holidays in their heads, but they might also be playing for that contract or playing for the contract for next year, whoever that team might be. So yeah, it's no write-off. It's the games where teams are involved, like Chesterfield and Bromley, and it's those permutations. Those are the interesting ones because, like you said, one way or the other, that helps us whether it's a draw or a loss. But I'm going to take stats out, and I am a gambling man. But take stats out. We just got to go for the win, and I'm not going to focus on the stats. Let's keep it in our own hands, please.
Yeah, exactly. Well, firstly, I'm shocked by what you say because I know you're a big fan of American football. In fact, is that a Kansas City something or other question or something behind it?
Yeah, it's the juice.
Gambling on sports in America, apart from in certain states, is massively frowned on, and I don't want you to be starting to lead Rob down that path. Thank you very much. So, poor bloke goes bankrupt or sent to jail just because of you. I'm not going to be happy. But also, yeah, Dagenham. I beg your pardon, Dagenham. You said exactly what I was thinking. They no longer have anything to play for, but they are in front of their own fans for the first time in ages. They have finished the season like an absolute train, and they would love, I'm sure, to sign off by giving the fans something positive. I think all these games would be very emotional, and that's that makes it hard for me to imagine that they'll be on the beach, even though I'd love them to be. Was it last 9 games, won 7, drawn 1, and lost 1? Admittedly, the lost one was last Saturday at Chesterfield. But then the draw was away at Stockport. I mean, they have been absolutely flying. They hammered Halifax 3-0. They're a decent team on good form. Will probably want to go out with a bang. And so it's a proper test for us, isn't it?
Yeah, and if we go back to the home game, February, was it, I think? I thought we played really well. We played them off the park, but then they brought on McCallum and the other big lad that was up front, switched it around through the long ball, and we couldn't cope with it. So whether they learn their lessons from that, and that's how they start, and that type of tactic, and we learn our lessons from that. I suppose you got Pearson back, that adds a bit more of an aerial presence, I suppose. So that adds that. Yeah, you're right. They're no they're no easy beats, and they'll want to prove it. The other thing, I suppose, is players have played, well, I suppose since March when the league cancelled last year, without fans. So how do players react for, I know it's going to sound a strange thing, but you're going from, over a year with no fans and sort of getting used to that almost training match environment, I suppose, to, a little bit of noise, a little bit of, boos, maybe cheering, depending on how you're playing on either side. And Wrexham fans have got to react to that. Wrexham players have got to react to that as well.
Yeah, that's very, very true. It never seems the most fearsome ground, Dagenham, to me. Maybe I'm being a bit unfair. So hopefully it's not intimidating. It's more of a joyful atmosphere. We have played, of course, once in front of. Oh no! I just realised I was about to make a positive comment and say we played once in front of fans this season at Weymouth and we won. But I remember then, of course, we also played in front of fans at Torquay and we lost. So yeah, there's no pattern there. I'd imagine all players, I'd hope, are just keen to get back out there and keen to get in front of supporters. I would have hoped, at least.
Yeah, at least Wrexham tend to play better against footballing sides and on footballing pitches. Dagenham, obviously have a decent pitch and decent, tend to be a footballing side. I know they've got the option to go long, so that does sort of allow Wrexham to play their best game to a certain extent, rather than the sort of what can be termed as traditional non-league style of football to a certain extent. So
I'm just having a sneaky look as well, and you're right. So I was thinking, have Dagenham, did they have one game in front of their fans? It doesn't look like they did. It looked like they did a trophy game instead at that weekend. So yeah, it might well be the first time at all that they've had fans in this season. So I don't know. Let's hope that we can rise to the occasion and come back once again, just like Richard Gere did when Julia Roberts killed him at the end of Pretty Woman. Spoiler alert for any of you who are watching the gritty Coen Brothers directed version.
I'm Kerry Evans and you're listening to Dragonheart Radio Show.
Yep, so Saturday's a big game, but we already know who the player of the season is. All the awards, the usual awards were given out. And before we talk about that, it's such a shame, isn't it, James, that normally that's done with the fans and the players together. And obviously this year that's just not possible. But at least there's hopeful signs now that soon we'll be able to be holding events like that where fans, players, maybe owners are all able to come together and share our love of the club. Yeah,
that sort of end of season dinner when the various fan groups come and present all the trophies, and it's a chance to mingle with some of the players. Some of the ones, it sort of tends to be the day before they get told whether they're getting a contract extension. So sometimes it's the last chance you get to see some of the players mingle in, and people get their shirts, the sponsors' shirts and stuff like that. And also the fact that players haven't been able to get the adulation from the fans on the pitch when the trophies are presented on the pitch as well, and sort of get that. So yeah, it is a shame, but it doesn't make it any much less of an achievement. So
yeah, exactly. Well, there are 11 awards given out, so maybe I'll go through them. You may spot a pattern because one player won 6 and one player won 4 of them. The official player of the season was Luke Young by a good margin. The official young player of the season by an even bigger margin was Jordan Davis. The players' player of the season, Luke Young. And then the different regional awards, Mold Reds went for Luke Young. Shropshire Reds went for Young as well. The Kings Mills Reds went for Jordan Davis. The London Reds went for Jordan Davis. The Isle of Man Reds were the only ones who broke ranks. They went for Reece Hall Johnson. The Roast Reds went for Luke Young. The Junior Dragons went for Jordan Davis. And our media team, the Wrexham AFC media team, we went in our award. Oh, beg your pardon. That was wrong, wasn't it? Sorry, the media player is the media team plus the local journalists voted for Luke Young. Sorry about that. I was getting a bit cocky then, wasn't I? I mean, obviously that indicates two things clearly. One, Young and Davis have been terrific this season, but also illustrates what we were talking about last week in Dragonheart, that to be fair, there were a lot of good performances by players this year. There were quite a lot of contenders, and there's a few who were maybe unlucky not to get the nod.
Yeah, I think I'm glad Hall Johnson's got one, because I think he's quietly gone back, especially as a wing back. He's really, going forward. He's added a different dimension and goals. as a right back earlier in the season, a little bit exposed at times on that right side of the defence, whether that was his fault or just the system. But I think he's been a cracking addition, particularly with his forward play. You've got players like, Lainton would normally be in there, but he's had a stop-start injury season. Dibble's had some really great games as well. Pearson would normally be in this conversation, but again, he's had an injury hit season. I think Kelleher's unlucky not to be in the shout. He's been consistent all the way through. Some of the some of the other defenders, Bassal obviously missed a few games with injuries here and there. You go into midfield, Young. He got my vote in the media team one. He got my vote in the Shropshire Red one. He got my vote in the club one. I think if you go, a player of the season has to be someone who's been consistent over the season. So I think he fully deserves that because he's had his best season in the Wrexham shirt, goal scoring wise and productivity. For me, he's played every game. He's been consistent. Jordan Davis has been a fantastic player and eye-catching certainly since the turn of the year. And I think there's, Wrexham have stuck with him and got that, given him the games to and that platform to produce, and he's done it. And I think he'll go on, and hopefully the club can tie him down long term, and he can build, something around that midfield. So I think he's obviously definitely my young player of the season. I 100% agree with that. But again, going back to the consistency, we're forgetting that. In the early part of the season, he played centre half. He played left wing, left midfield, left defence, all over the place. So, over a season again, that's my Luke Young one. And then Kwame Thomas was quietly having himself a season, and obviously does his Achilles injury, and he had a great season. And other players are coming at different times and perform well, but your consistent ones that have played the majority of games, I think, are Hall Johnson, Young, Jordan Davis, and I put Kelleher in there as a shout. But yeah, I think it's nice to have a spread of players, but for the awards. But I think realistically, the main two, if you go for the club one young player and the player of the season, I think have fallen to the right players.
Yeah, I think absolutely. I mean, Jordan Davis had to be really. That's not a criticism of the other young players. In fact, there have been some very good performances by young players. I mean, Cameron Green now is looking terrific. Tyler French has come in and done well. There's plenty. Yeah. But Jordan Davis has been spectacular. I think he clearly had to win that trophy. Luke Young got 34% of the votes. That's a handsome amount of Hall Johnson second, Thomas third, and Davis fourth. Good to see Thomas remembered, really, as well. Like I say, it's a while since he got injured, and it's good to see that he got that recognition, because he could easily have won it if he hadn't been injured. And like I say, Davis then inevitably is going to win the Young Award because, well, like I say, he came fourth in the Senior Award. He's been sensational.
No, yeah, I think the awards have gone to the right people. And some are unlucky because of injury, but I suppose that's football. That's the season, isn't it, to a certain extent? It'll be interesting for me who gets goal of the season. I think there's some interesting ones. Like obviously Luke Young's going for a hat trick this year, is he? For goal of the season, I think he would be.
That's right. Yeah.
But obviously Jordan Davis again will be challenging for that, and there'll be a couple of others that in the mix. So that'll be an interesting vote as well. But I think it's great that the players can get recognised. And I think that, obviously with the two midfielders in there as well, it shows because they've been the ones that have scored the long range, spectacular goals and the free kicks and the work rate that's in there. And at times, yes, we've been bullied a little bit in midfield, but that's not those players' faults necessarily. Sometimes it's formation or your opposition and the way of doing it. So, yeah, being consistent, particularly Jordan Davis turn of the year onwards. And Luke Young for me all season.
Yeah, that goal of the season trophy, by the way, as it was mentioned in the article, will be awarded a bit later, because last year, because of lockdown, we weren't able to hold the usual competitions, and so we decided to give it a twist. And if I'm honest, I think the real reason was to give people something to do in the summer, get a bit of sustained stuff rather than just one vote. So we organised it as a knockout competition. We picked the best 16 goals and let everyone vote on which one goes through to the next round, and that went down really well, and we're going to do that again. which I'm glad about, because as you say, Luke Young's got some competition this time, hasn't he? There's some real screamers being scored by a few of the players, so that should be fun. So we'll be doing that after the season's concluded. Let's hope that means in about a month. But,
Kwame Thomas will be up there for that. It obviously wasn't a goal, but the one he hit against Sutton that hit the crossbar off the volley from that would have been, for me, that would have been goal of the season if it had gone in. But obviously, it rattled the crossbar.
Exactly, it was a hell of a strike, wasn't it? Bless him. Sleeping with the Enemy. That was a Julia Roberts film. By the way.
Yeah.
It came back to me eventually. And the other big news, I suppose, from those awards is that it was decided that Young should also receive last year's award, which I don't think anyone could object to. The award just wasn't given out because of all the issues around COVID. But yeah, it's appropriate that Young got last year's award. His standards are the same as they have been this year. And frankly, no one else. That was one of those years where there really were no contenders beyond him. So I'm really glad that he's got the acknowledgement for that too.
Yeah, I think Luke's obviously made the move up from Devon and Sam Rickett's first signing, and he's had a few management changes over his time here, but he's always been one of the first names on the team sheet for all of them. Perhaps when Dean comes in, when he came back, he may have thought, well, is he my type of midfielder? But Dean's praised him. There's that famous but infamous line he said about Luke Young in one of his interviews. So I think he's hit the ground running. He's always given Wrexham fans 100%, and I think, yeah, all players are going to have bad games and good games. And when we've had bad games, he stands out as having a bad game because you're so used to him having a good game, sort of thing. So that's almost a compliment to him in terms of that's how consistent he's been. So yeah, hopefully he's part of the revolution.
Under Keats, Young has started every single league match since Keats came back.
Doesn't surprise me, but it was that sort of. I thought Keats would like him as a midfielder because a little bit similar to a certain extent. But you're never sure with the manager because they want to make their own stamp on a squad and how they want to play, don't they? So
it just shows what Keats thinks of him, doesn't it? Really, that he's picked him so consistently. He didn't start. There was one league game last season he didn't start, and that was when Brian Hughes made the costly decision to rotate his team around. When we played at Hartlepool, we played over the not the Easter weekend, the Maybank. No, that early season bank holiday when we played 2 games in 3 days. He decided to sort of pick a half-strength team at Hartlepool and got battered. That's the only time he didn't start last season, and even the last 2 seasons in the league. When he first came to us, he was actually left out of a few games by Sam Ricketts.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. But yeah, I think it's clear to all now that guy might just be a first-choice player. Fair play to him. All right, well, we might as well clear off, I suppose, and let all thoughts turn to the Dagenham match. James, as always, it's an absolute pleasure to work with you. And thanks very much for coming along and getting back on the Dragonheart horse.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
enjoyed it.
Good stuff.
All on Saturday.
Absolutely. Remember, it's live on BT, so there can't be a live stream. If you haven't got BT, then, well, you could listen to Mixler, the club commentary. That'll be there for the full match to keep you updated. Let's hope that they can do it. And let's hope that they're helped along by the man who is going to give us the Hollywood send-off now, Jay Harris.
This is Jay Harris, and you're listening to Dragonheart Radio.
Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe as well so you don't miss out on any of our content, and click the bell to get notifications.